You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
I'm pleased to call to order the meeting of the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation for Tuesday, March 26, 2024. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by 5 p.m. on Friday. I'd like to further note for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to the items on the agenda. If so, I'd ask that you would please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote regarding such item. Hearing none, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the July 31st, 2023 and September 27th, 2023 directors meeting. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? And by the way, we have no comments from the public regarding this item. If not, may I have a motion for approval?
Motion made.
Second. Did you get that, Scott? And then Chandra. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. The motion carries. I'd like to now call upon Anthony Velardo to present the next item on today's agenda. Approval of the corporation's operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. Anthony.
Excuse me. Wait. Oh, did we get 2 rounds of minutes to approve?
There were, yes, there was the July 31st and September 27th.
Okay.
Yes. Anthony, may I turn it over to you?
Thank you, Chairwoman. Directors, state finance law requires that prior to the commencement of each fiscal year on April 1st, the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation adopt an annual budget and a capital budget if applicable. The 2024-25 operating budget proposes a total of $626,784 in personnel services, which is salary and benefits, for 4.5 employees, and a total of $163,568 in non-personnel services, primarily our office occupancy, insurance, and other administrative expenses. The total of all budgeted personnel and non-personnel expenses for the fiscal year is $790,352. Consistent with the previous year's operating budgets, the 24-25 operating budget will be advanced by the Empire State Development, USA Niagara's parent, with the expectation of reimbursement at a later date. Separate from the corporation's operational budget is the corporation's capital budget. Capital budget projects are individually approved by the corporation's board of directors under separate actions. Our 24-25 capital budget is $86,049,397. This includes, but is not limited to, design and other soft costs, legal costs, property management and maintenance costs, insurance costs, demolition and site clearance costs, construction costs, and other miscellaneous costs. Based upon the foregoing, the directors are requested to ratify and approve the corporation's proposed 2024-25 operating budget in the amount of $790,352. and the capital budget in the amount of $86,049,397, subject to individual project approvals, and to authorize the corporation to undertake tasks and incur expenditures consistent with advancing the scope of work contemplated in the proposed budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. May I ask the board members if they have any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? We did not receive any comments from the public regarding the annual budget. So now if I may have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Chandra, second by Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The motion carries. Anthony, we'll go back to you to present the next agenda item, approval of the Niagara Falls Convention and Conference Facility and Old Fall Street 2024 operating and capital budget. Again, Anthony, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Directors, attached for your review and approval are the proposed operating and capital budget requests for the Niagara Falls Convention and Conference Facility Civic Project, known as the Niagara Falls Convention Center, and Old Fall Street for 2024. USA Niagara is the owner of and developer of the Niagara Falls Convention Center. The Board of Directors on October 12th, 2021, authorized the agency to enter into a 5-year agreement with the Niagara Tourism and Convention Corporation, doing business as Destination Niagara, to provide management services for NFCC and the City of Niagara Falls' owned Old Fall Street for a 5-year term starting January 1st, 2022. For the calendar year of 2024, the funding source will be through the New York State budget appropriation made available to projects located in Niagara Falls through the Regional Economic and Community Assistance Program, better known as RECAP. The proposed calendar year operating budget for the Convention Center is $417,054, and the operating budget for Old Fall Street is $847,930. The total operating budgets for the Convention Center and Old Fall Street is $1,264,984. The proposed capital budget for the proposed calendar year 24 capital budget is $235,000. The capital budget includes a total of $181,516 in funding for the Convention Center and a total of $53,500 in funding for capital for Old Fall Street. The capital budget for the Convention Center includes digital signage upgrades, audiovisual equipment upgrades, parking lot improvements, and emergency repairs. Including the Old Fall Street budget are a new golf cart, an outdoor distribution box, which is used for concerts and cabling, and additional monies for tent replacements for our vendors on the street. And also which we think will be really cool, and I think Andrea and Jason will hopefully have some pictures of the selfie station with big NF letters to be placed right on Old Fall Street, where individuals and families can take photos of themselves. The combined operating and capital budgets for the facility and the street are $1,500,000. The operating and capital budgets for the Convention Center is $598,570, and the operating capital budget for Old Fall Street is $901,430. To address the gap in the corporation's fiscal year, April 1st to March 31st, and the fiscal year for the building facility, which is January 1st to December 31st, the directors approved on March 20th, 2023, in advance of $250,000 to fund the first quarter operations in 2024. USA Niagara is proposing that the directors approve at this time Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Fall Street for the first quarter of 2025, the calendar year, in the amount not to exceed $250,000. The Convention Center and Old Fall Street budgets for 2025 will remain subject to your approval before the start of the corporation's fiscal year. The directors are requested to approve USA Niagara's proposed calendar year 2024 operating budgets for the Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Fall Street in the amount not to exceed $1,500,000, and to approve funding for the first quarter of the calendar year 2025 in the amount not to exceed $250,000, and to distribute funds in accordance with the calendar year 2024 Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Fall Street operating budgets attached hereto. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Anthony. I ask the board if they have any comments, questions, additions, or deletions. We have no comments from the public regarding this item. So if I may entertain a motion for approval.
Motion for approval.
Scott,
I'll second.
Chandra, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. The motion carries. It's my pleasure now to call upon Andrea Zopp, Chief Operating Officer for the Niagara Falls Convention Center, otherwise known as Destination Niagara, and Jason Murgia, General Manager of the Niagara Falls Convention Center, to present the Destination Niagara USA Annual Report and Budget for informational purposes only. No vote is required, board members. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea and Jason.
Thank you. I just want to, well, first, thank you for approving our budgets. We're looking forward to another really great year in the building and on the street. I'll let Jason go into a little more detail on the operating plan for 2024. I just wanted to give some very high-level recap items from 23. First and foremost, year-over-year comparison from 2022. We had 43,349 attendees in the building in 2022. For an estimated economic impact for the community of $11.6 million. In 2023, we had 75,188 attendees in the building for an estimated economic impact of $20.9 million. We do estimated economic impact through the Destinations International calculator. Destinations International is the governing body for organizations such as ours, destination marketing organizations. They have a calculator that's the industry standard for developing economic impact for convention centers. We put a significant, Destination Niagara USA budget, put a significant amount of money behind last year, a marketing campaign for conventions, not necessarily just for the building, but in the destination. That's why we didn't take it out of the convention center budget, because we wanted to include other meeting venues as well in being able to promote the entire region, as we're expected to do as Destination Niagara. But we have seen definite benefits for the building for sure in doing that campaign. And so just worth mentioning, it was called Be a Bucket List Hero. These are focused on meeting planner publications, some of the largest meeting planner publications in the country. And really with the effort of focusing meeting planners on the fact that this is also a bucket list destination. What helps us with that is that it not only attracts the convention attendee, but they also tend to bring their families more and tack on additional days in the destination, which helps the hotels, which helps the restaurants, attractions, et cetera. So there is a trickle down effect, which is why, again, we spent it through the Destination Niagara budget. The other thing that was worth noting in 2023, Niagara Falls USA was named a Platinum Choice Award winner by Smart Meetings magazine, which is the largest meeting planner publication in the country. That was actually voted on by meeting planners directly, and it was based on meeting and event venue options and overall customer service excellence. So we were very proud of that. We did do a big media push on that back into the meeting planner market. Social media channels for both the Convention Center and Old Falls Street have continued since we took over to see triple-digit increases in engagement. Prior to us taking over, the previous operator really wasn't spending any focus or time on social media. We believe that's incredibly important because that's where we do all of our digital buying, because we can track it. We know how well it's performing. I really strongly believe that it's done very well for Old Falls Street events. I think Jason can attest to this. We saw record attendance at both Oktoberfest and Blues Fest last year, which are the two largest events on the street. The nice thing about the digital marketing is that we can track it. So if it's not performing particularly well in one place, we can move it right away somewhere else. So not only do we target local residents for those, but we also target the drive market for the Old Falls Street events. And we also geo-target visitors that are within the market so that when they're out and about, they know that there's events going on, say this weekend on Old Falls Street, to get people to come over to the street. That's all I have for 23, unless anybody has any other questions.
Andrew, what's the projection look like this year?
Projection for,
Activity on the street, convention activity.
Go ahead, Jason,
Okay.
that'll get us into 24.
yeah, I'll speak to the 24 and what we're forecasting. As Andrew said, again, thank you for passing our budget. And also, I could speak to being at the Convention Center Old Falls Street for over 13 years. The partnership with Destination Niagara and taking us over working from a private standpoint company and now Destination Niagara. The things that we're doing and the resources that are available now more than ever to the convention center on Old Fall Street are absolutely tremendous. These resources you would not get if you were with a private company. I could speak to that because I've seen it and I've done it. So again, the partnership with Destination Niagara, taking over the managementship, is absolutely awesome. And again, the fruits of the labor and what they're doing on the marketing and social media side, we see results. So again, thank you to the board of directors for making that switch over. As it relates to 2024 in the convention center, just some high level notes on the budget. We are expecting and anticipating a slight increase over gross revenue from previous year. We did receive definites of the tune of $1.6 million on the books prior to January of this year, which is the second most in the building that we've ever seen. 50 to 60% of our business, however, comes in the year for the year. The dilemma that we're in is that we're doing a layering effect now in our convention center, meaning we have booked pretty much a lot of space throughout the year, and now we're booking multiple events in our convention center with other events, which is a good problem to have. Some of the issues that we're dealing with relative to the budget increases, we are anticipating going 2 full-time positions back in our F&B, where back in 2019 we had, but post-COVID and post-COVID, we were not ready to have that. In addition to that, we did see a massive increase in our liability insurance. And by massive, it is very large. And we're working with the state right now to help us mitigate some of that cost, but we had to go ahead and, get the insurances that we're required to have. So again, we're working with ESD and we're working with USA Niagara to help us offset some of those large expenditures that we received. And that also translates at the end of the day why we're seeing a little bit larger subsidies on the convention center and on the OFS side. In terms of forecasting and the attendance, we are forecasting, I have it right here. We are forecasting right now definite less than what we've had for 2023, but we have not in those numbers. We're not anticipating the 50 to 60% in the year for the year business. We believe we're going to get there. The key right now is some of the groups we have to turn away because we don't have room in our building. But we're also trying to having that layering effect of making sure we can do multiple groups and still have the high customer service that we have for what they expect us to do. Any questions on the convention center? As it relates to Old Fall Street, again, we see an increase in the subsidy, and that's mainly due to 3 reasons. And those reasons are, again, the insurance that we had to obtain, and we made the adjustment as a liability, and we do have slip and falls on Old Fall Street. That's the nature of the business when you're outside in a 3-city block. So they will bear the brunt of that cost on the OFS side. It's only fair because that's where we're seeing the claims come from. But again, we're working with the state to mitigate that expense. In addition to that, we had our 2 full-time staff members out during prime season, and those one was not filled and the other was on a maternity and they came back. So obviously you're going to see an increase from year over year based on obviously their pay. In addition to that, we are strategically doing less daily vendors on our street. The rationale for that is that the private market is putting more product out there and they're coming online. So the last thing we want to do is compete against the brick and mortar restaurants. We want to be a partner and not compete against them. So again, you will see a slight increase in the subsidy. We are planning on 2 new events this year. We want to do full programming from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And the team that we have in place, obviously, and Andrew and I could attest to this, are 2 solid females that have done a tremendous job already. And on the growth that we're seeing on the holiday weekends, whether it's Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, we are seeing more and more tourists come back. I think it has surpassed the 2019 levels. And we're seeing that in our sales at our kiosk. So Old Fall Street every year is growing. But again, from a budgetary standpoint, we're going to have to make some, the subsidy had increased based on what we've already spoken to. So
Well, and where we're seeing a little bit of loss in revenue from the additional daily street vendors, we're hoping we might be able to make up a little bit with the weekend-long activities we're doing for the eclipse. So, you know, whether it's a really sunny day or it's pouring rain, people will be here. And that is a difference between a normal April 8th weekend and this year. There will be a significant amount of people here looking for things to do. And there's a full range of events planned on Old Fall Street for that weekend, including food trucks, music, et cetera. So we're hoping to make up some of that lost revenue from the daily vendors from that event, which is, you know, obviously an outlier.
And from that programmatic standpoint, it's full activities and full programming Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Oh, good. That's great. So who's going to show us the selfie thing with?
Well,
We
unfortunately,
didn't know he was gonna tell you we
Yeah.
brought a picture, we didn't, so we're sorry.
I will try to pull it up.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Francine, I'll try to pull it up on my
What are you
phone.
doing?
I'll
Giant
find it.
NFs or what are you doing?
No, what it is, it's a vendor that I actually met at a conference. And anywhere you go in a major destination, you see some type of selfie that explains whether it's the I Love New York, wherever it is. They have one in Lockport. And this vendor is going to do a selfie for us. Obviously, this company does it all over the United States, all over the world. And it's a background drop of the falls with lettering NF and Y. And it's very large. I believe it's 8 by 18. And Andrew's trying to pull it up right now. But it's simply something that our folks, our guests, whether they're local, domestic, international, could take a picture of. I can't tell you how many people have taken pictures of that mural.
Yeah, they love it. I mean, that's
So here's a rendering, and that rendering is what we've approved.
great. Yeah.
And most likely that's going to go in the, did you guys see it? Most likely that's going to go in the Cataract Commons area.
Okay.
The other thing it does is it generates social media interest,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
ultimately what we're trying to do. It's
Yeah.
not just for the photo opportunity itself, but it's to drive the interest. Because even the mural drives a ton of interest online. So that was definitely worth the investment.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes,
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So all of you in New York, you have to come to Niagara Falls and take a photo. You hear me? We have one final item on today's agenda, which relates to a request for authorization to enter a contract agreement for consultant services.
Anthony is going to take, oh, I,
All right.
yeah, I responded.
Okay, thank you, Chairwoman.
Anthony, if you can proceed.
Yep, thank you, Chairwoman Del Monte. In 2018, USA Niagara began purchasing vacant parcels near the Niagara Falls State Park to return long dormant land back to productive use. With the land now acquired, USA Niagara has begun to focus on projects that will activate the sites and attract new developments. Future infill and mixed-use developments will enhance the tourism industry, evolve the downtown neighborhood, and diversify the economy and benefit those who live and work in Niagara Falls. On July 8th, 2022, USA Niagara issued a request for proposals titled the Niagara Falls Heritage Gateways to select a qualified architecture and engineering team to provide design services and construction administration services for a project that will activate 3 of USA Niagara's sites. Pursuant to the resulting process, Practice for Architecture and Urbanism, otherwise known as POW, was scored the highest by the designated scoring committee and was approved by the USA Niagara Board for contract approval in November of 2022. The design process for the Heritage Gateways started in October of 2022 and will soon enter into the final stages. USA Niagara's original contract with POW, there were several tasks that were identified as optional and not included in the original contract because the full scope of the project was unknown at the time. At this time, these tasks should be added as they are now required to advance the current preferred designs for the project. Additionally, the preferred design for the hydraulic power plaza component of the project includes a signature water feature Since the original scope of service did not include expertise related to water features, POW must supplement their consulting contract team with an additional sub-consultant to perform this work. The proposed scope of work will include additional services for structural engineering, lighting design, electrical engineering, and all design work related to the proposed signature water feature. We are requesting the directors do three things. First, make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed contractor. Secondly, authorize the corporation to enter into a contract amendment with POW for an amount not to exceed $341,663. And thirdly, to authorize the taking of all related actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions or comments from the directors regarding this item? I may say I'm a big fan of water features, especially in Niagara Falls. Paul Tronolo
You would have let
knows.
me down if you didn't say that.
I believe, Andrea knows this too, I believe water should be shooting out everywhere downtown. So, big fan of water features. We don't have any comments from the public regarding this item. So if I may have a motion for approval, please. So move. Chandra, Scott, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. The motion carries. If there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
Adjourn.
Scott, Chandra, so moved. Thank you all for participating in today's meeting. Thank you to our guests, and may everybody have a nice holiday weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.